trail miles apart, and I won't leave, 'cause I guarantee that I'll never find where you are. Won't be, 'cause I'll never see why you're so afraid that you all walk away from me. You're so afraid that you all run away from me.
Hi, everyone. This is Stacy. Welcome back to Stigma Does Not Define Us. This is a podcast by Mental Health. And here, what we're trying to do is feature men who have had their own mental health struggles and who have sought help, who have spoken up and just simply said, I'm not okay and I need help. We want more and more men from England to just speak out and not feel afraid to say that they're struggling. So we're featuring stories that show why that's important and how well you can do for reaching out and for speaking up. Today we have this lovely gentleman. His name is Alex Robbins. Alex, let's switch here. There he is. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm so happy
No
to
worries.
have you. Your Instagram page alone, just the pictures alone, are very inspiring and positive. Why don't you tell our audience about you, what you're up to?
Yeah, sure. So, full time, I actually work in recruitment still. Been doing that for the last sort of 8, 9 years now.
Mhm.
But what I do outside of that, something that I've literally just launched, is a fitness kind of coaching business, online and in person, which not only focuses on the physical side, but yeah, it kind of puts the mental side first, I would say.
Mhm.
So it's as I've just been explaining to you offline, it's just trying to put that self-care piece first and foremost, and
Mhm.
then focus on fitness, and look, if people start to like the way they look a little bit better, that's just an added
Mhm.
bonus for me.
Mhm.
It's more about the functional and actually taking care of yourself and
Yeah.
building good habits.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. I don't think we think about men having body image issues. You know what I'm saying? We always attribute that to just women. And I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on all of us to
Yeah.
have that Hollywood image. And it's just so unrealistic. Would you say you've run into that? I'm sure you've run into that with men just feeling self conscious.
Yeah, massively. I've been kind of victim to that as well. We can definitely discuss that a little bit more. But I
Hmm.
think there's such a common trend around men these days as well to even use steroids quite casually.
Mm,
And you see all these Hollywood celebrities, and there's definitely no secret, like you say, that they're definitely all on steroids. That
yeah.
the ones that are really in shape.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, people like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, are quite outspoken about how depressive it can actually be.
Mm,
I think when you're kind of striving to attain an image, especially, there's always going to be someone who's bigger than you, always someone who can lift more than you. So it's actually quite demotivating
yeah.
to always be trying to, kind of chase that, I guess.
Mhm, mhm. So true, and I think people do have to remember that they have access to treatments, drugs, therapies that the
Yeah,
average person does not have
exactly.
anywhere near the resources to obtain those things. So I think sometimes you just have to keep your eyes off Hollywood altogether.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Alex, tell us about your history, your childhood, or your own struggle. What motivated you to want to help people?
Okay. So, um, firstly, I think it's important to say that I had a really happy childhood.
Mhm.
I hear a lot of other people's stories, and there's a lot of kind of really dramatic trauma that people go through that I definitely can't claim to have been through. I'm
Sure.
a fairly, kind of standard middle class child, I think, where the worst
Mhm.
thing that really happens to you is your parents get divorced. There's there's not a
Right.
lot else.
I know what you
Um,
mean.
I think that did happen at probably a bad time for me though. As a 14-year-old boy, it's quite a formative stage of your life, and I think because being a teenager is so confusing in itself, you probably don't realize, oh, I'm depressed because of this. You're going through so much anyway that you go through the normal kind of changes in behavioral patterns as a teenager. You start hanging around with people who are drinking and potentially doing other substances and stuff like that, and I think that you don't necessarily label that at the time as self-medicating or anything like that. So I think I probably after my parents' divorce and for a few years afterwards, I kind of felt fine. I was fairly well behaved and everything. But then when I hit my kind of UK college years, which are kind of 17, 18, I definitely started kind of getting heavily involved in drinking culture, and initially smoking a lot of weed as well, but then kind of upgraded to, I don't know if you can call it an upgrade, but
I know what you mean.
kind of leveled up to things like kind of cocaine as well, and ecstasy and stuff. And like I said, I don't think that at the time I ever thought of it as a mental health issue. I was just doing the normal, what I thought was normal partying
Right.
as a young man,
Right.
which again is really so often the case.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely turned into a more unhealthy habit, which I think I was definitely more aware of. I started doing coke a lot more. I was doing it on kind of weekdays. I was getting in debt with it. I even got into kind of bits of selling it as well to kind of feed the habit.
Right.
Which again, I'd kind of pay off my debt at the end of the month with my wages, and then spend the rest of the next month getting back in debt. And
oh, I see.
Exactly. Just kind of getting running up a bill, I would say, and then
Well, just spiraling and
spiraling. But I mean, I still always managed to hold down a full-time job, but was probably never really kind of setting the world on fire with my performance in in any of these jobs. So that then led to me neglecting my kind of priority bills, my rent, my phone bills, and anything that I would need to pay for. Basically, I wasn't doing. I was too bothered about paying off my debts, but then also going out spending silly money on clothes, on nights outs, and
Right.
things like that, and just kind of ignoring the problem. And this really, as I say, I think that numbing effect, that kind of, I guess, adrenaline as well of getting through this problem of having people chasing me for money, everything like that. I think it's almost kind of survival mode. So you don't kind of settle and think about it quite often until you get to breaking point, which is definitely what happened for me. I had kind of just a break really. I'd kind of alienated a lot of my family because of my behavior. I was staying temporarily at my dad's house because I've been kicked out of the place that I was renting.
Gotcha.
And because of that, I had to give up a dog that I had at the time because there was no home for her. And that actually really kind of broke me and made me realize, look, this is something that needs sorting out. This was when I was around 24, 25.
Gotcha.
My elder sister, luckily, who's an absolute blessing, had moved away, a long time before that, down to Birmingham, which is not where I grew up. And she'd been kind of saying for a good couple of years, look, you need to come with me. Let's sort you out. Let's get on top of this.
Yeah.
And again, I just ignored it, just kind of laughed it off. But at that point, I remember actually still being up and high at the time. I kind of texted her and said, I think we need to sort this out.
Okay.
So luckily, I was able to move down with her. She literally kind of kept my bank cards, kept everything, literally kind of absolutely, kind of drilled me into shape, I think you could say, to the point where I didn't have the choice to spend money. I had to, if I needed money, I had to call her and ask her to transfer it to me. So there had to be a good justification every time. But that was really lucky. But what that made me do was really focus on the immediate situation. So again, it was really just the sorting out my bills, sorting out my debts, everything like that. In the end, I think I paid off something like 30 grand's worth of debt within the space of a couple of years. But
good for you. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. But to be honest, we're still finding ways to eventually get more money, and and end up still partying, still drinking. And I think that was again kind of survival mode, if I'm honest. Like I knew that I was getting the rest of it in gear. I was staying away from any of the criminal side, because that was obviously a complete dead end, and a dangerous space to be in.
Right.
But I guess I was just kind of tunnel vision on, let's just work hard, get my head down, pay these bills off, and still I guess kind of numb myself to what's going on in my head.
Right.
And just get through it. So then, as part of that, was with a girl, ended up being engaged to her as well. And did the whole thing of had a house, like I say, had a wedding booked, everything like that. But then I actually just got to a point, and I don't know if it was the kind of the cocktail of drugs, everything like that, but then for a good couple of years, this is like 4 years ago now, I just hit a point where I couldn't function, and I was kind of not sleeping properly. I was just constantly thinking, actually really weird, kind of anxious thoughts about mortality, if anything. Just my head would kind of spiral and go on this weird like existential crisis every night, every day, like literally couldn't do anything. And yeah, at that point then I started stripping back the other things as well. So I was like, right, okay, we need to change my eating habits, we need to change my diet, we need to change my workout routine.
Gotcha.
Just started ticking things off, basically.
Right.
Unfortunately, the drink and the drugs were still the last thing to go, and were probably something that I should have addressed a lot earlier. But tried the diet, tried the exercise, changed my job even, and just still wasn't kind of fixing it. And then kind of woke up one morning and realized that it just was the relationship that I was no longer kind of happy with. And it's definitely no slight on her, because she's an amazing woman, but just I think the fact that it was like I could see my life planned out ahead of me, if that makes sense. It was this whole, you're going to get married, you're going to have a kid, that's it. And it was the finality of it. So I just, at that point,
you weren't ready.
Exactly. Just had a mini kind of breakdown again about that. But I'm talking, to the point where I was literally, until I'd done that, I was literally, contemplating suicide. Definitely never I don't think to an extent where I would do it, but just thinking a lot about it. We actually went on a day out and were clay pigeon shooting, and I got this crazy anxiety like in the build up to it, where I was kind of picturing myself actually turning the gun on myself. And like, that now I think about it, it's almost laughable, because I wouldn't do it. But at the same time, just had such this clear image that it was a possibility, that I was, it really kind of shook me. But yeah, we were kind of affected by a suicide, actually, which was the point where I realized the damage it did, and just said, said to myself, this is the point that I need to kind of do something and change my life properly. So yeah, unfortunately, this girl that I was with was definitely a victim of that, because I just thought I need to scrap everything and start from scratch. Which is basically what I did. Unfortunately then, that kind of coincided with lockdown. So
that's actually one of my questions is how did the pandemic and lockdown affect you?
Well, so I got again kind of semi-serious with another girl in lockdown, because we were spending a lot of time with each other, because of the situation, and kind of went 0 to 100, and again, I think actually in hindsight, we've both agreed since that we should have only just stayed friends, to be honest, because we were really supportive of each other. And actually, I think that we both kind of really helped each other to kind of get through lockdown in a lot of ways. We had a lot of conversations around, feelings, around what else had gone on. We talked a lot about kind of stuff that had happened through our childhoods. And
Mhm.
actually, yeah, when I think about it, she was just a really, really good friend to me, for helping me through that.
Mhm.
And that's really the only time when I did begin to address, childhood. How has this
Mhm.
actually impacted you?
Mhm.
Start, I guess, to try and forgive other people,
Mhm.
for damages that they may have done, as well as kind of forgive myself for
Mhm.
a lot of the mistakes that I'd made in, getting involved in the stuff that I did or didn't do.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, only recently actually have I stopped drinking, stopped
Mhm.
drugs altogether. Um, really focused on, proper health, not
Yeah.
just kind of work out and hope for the best.
Right. Right.
Done a lot of kind of inner work and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So
Wow, there's so many facets to what you're saying that are going
mm,
through my mind. I think,
mm,
going back to your sister and having someone to be accountable to. I think if people are in the middle of it and they can't have that
mm,
self-limiting capability, having
mm,
someone who will help you be accountable, I think sounded like that was a really good start for you to
yeah,
get things in check. And then the relationships too, in a way, are
mm,
hold you accountable. Now,
definitely, yeah,
you know, a lot of what we want to do is provide people with the resources. Okay,
hmm,
what did Alex do? What books did he read? What
hmm,
therapy did he have? What did you do to get you through those steps of true healing so that you could finally let go
yeah.
of the drugs and drinking, that last real damaging behavior?
Yeah. So, and I think that this is something that I've been reflecting on, obviously, since getting the invitation to have this chat, and I think where I've come to in my head, and this is based on a couple of sound bites that I've heard recently about mental health, is you can kind of forgive yourself for doing what you needed to do in order to survive. So,
Mhm.
think things like the drink, the drugs, are only ever self-medication, and
Right.
they definitely shouldn't be a long-term fix.
Mhm.
But for me, I think that what I was doing in the background to that was building healthy habits around everything else that was a problem in my life. So number one, get away from the dealing, get away from all of that kind of stuff and hanging around with
Mhm.
people that are going to get me in trouble. Number two, actually focus on getting my debts paid off.
Mhm.
That's another one ticked off. Number three, I mean, buying a house,
Mhm.
saving, actually getting discipline around that was such an achievement for me as well. And again, gave me real focus. It made me, show up for work, perform everything that
Mhm.
was needed in order to achieve that.
Mhm.
Um, I've been been going to the gym on and off since I was 18, but
Mhm.
again, part of that over the more recent years was building that habit as well.
Mhm.
So I've just said that maybe I should have addressed the drinking drugs a lot earlier. I think that's
Mhm.
probably true, but
Mhm.
all of the foundations that I laid then meant that
Mhm.
everything else in my life was so healthy and so positive that
Mhm.
actually I didn't need the escape of the drugs and alcohol anymore.
I
So that,
see.
I guess
Mhm.
that's why it was kind of the final thing to tick off.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, that's interesting. Now, at work, I'm just curious, do you feel like, especially with drinking and drugs, do
Mm,
you think they were
mm.
aware? Do you think they were aware that you were using? Even, I mean, you were quite functional and it's successful in many ways, but that was still there. Do you think people pick that up at work, or
Yeah,
friends or family? Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I'll be completely honest. The recruitment industry is kind of renowned for that culture,
Okay.
and if anything, it's, I wouldn't say encouraged, but it's definitely a
Mhm.
thing within recruitment. So not
Mhm.
only were they aware, but I'd quite often
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
kind of doing coke on a night out with my manager. So
Okay.
it was just accepted as being part of the culture. I don't think that they were ever concerned. Their main thing was, if the saying was, if you're out, then you're in, which means
Mhm.
if you've been out, you're in work the next day, no excuses.
Yeah, yeah, so it's just sorta casual, the attitude, it sounds
Exactly,
like it was pretty casual, yeah.
exactly.
Do you have some favorite books? Do you have a favorite author that just clicks for you?
Yeah, so interestingly, and again, this is about the habits thing, right? So
Mhm,
I guess different stages of my journey. I've
mhm,
listened to different things. One thing that really, I guess, kind of made me see a lot of perspective and start to try and be a lot more disciplined with myself and a lot I guess getting rid of the negative habits.
Mhm.
Guy called David Goggins. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've come across
I
him.
have. Yes. Yeah.
But the guy's story is just incredible. And
Yeah.
look, it's all relative. Like I can only be traumatized by what's happened in my life, and equally what he's
Right.
gone through might be a lot worse, but it's still damaged me,
Mhm.
potentially in the same kind of ways as it might have damaged him. But
Mhm.
just his story about, like, it definitely helped put it in perspective. I realized that, look, there's people going through a lot worse than me.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
um, kind of be thankful for what I have got around me already.
Mhm.
And then also just his ruthless discipline with himself, and that, really kind of driven habit to show up and
Mhm.
to make sure that he always kind of puts the work in to make himself better, really.
Mhm.
Uh, and the thing is that in his book, he talks a lot about fitness and about these really kind of macho alpha sort of challenges, but he also refers it to, office work and learning
Mhm.
an instrument and stuff like that, and they're really useful exercises that he teaches people in there as well.
Okay.
Um, so, and then more recently, there's a couple of books that actually myself and my current girlfriend have been listening to, and I think part of it is that me and her are both so, kind of aligned on where we want to be, and what we want to kind of, I guess, achieve, and we've got this really supportive environment now for each other, where we're both, just exploring this kind of self-love and
Mhm.
development kind of environment, basically. So
Mhm.
um what one thing that we've both been reading is a fairly new author, I think, called Young Pueblo.
Okay.
And that's his writing name, but he's got these two books called Inward, and another one called Connections and Consciousness. Um,
Okay.
and actually, it's just these really interesting little snippets. It's not even written as a full flowing text. If you open one page, it'll just be like a little bit on each page, and
Oh, I
it's
like
just
that.
kind of, it's
Yeah.
almost like quotes. It's kind of like
Mhm.
poems almost.
Mhm.
Um, but some of those, yeah, I mean, I think you just have to read it to understand it, basically. But
You
it's
got me
got some really good
curious.
things in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look them up. Wow, wow. Yeah, I do an information page with all your recommendations at the end. So
Okay.
that's why
Yeah.
we ask, what are your favorite books? We want to give people something to go look for. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Mm.
And if you have a favorite online speaker or a favorite movie, even any of those things that have inspired you that you would
Yeah.
recommend to folks.
I mean, I'll be honest. Part of what I'm finding really useful at the moment is just switching all of that off as well as much as I
Hmm.
can.
Good point.
I've really found that it's useful to get out in nature, to
Hmm.
just even just to be. That's kind of a bit of an overused little cliche, I think, recently. But yeah, just being, and whatever that looks like. So it may
Hmm.
well be sitting in front of the TV, but for me, it's just literally doing nothing,
Yeah.
and it really just allows your brain to not even switch off. Sometimes that's when my brain's the busiest, but it at least
Hmm.
allows me to kind of process
Hmm.
instead of just distracting with the phone or with the TV or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, devices, you're 100% spot on with that
mhm.
because I think we all have something inside that, is waiting for our attention, for some healing, for some personal development. And there's just so much more now to distract us from that. And
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever tried things like meditation, but that does quiet the mind in that it allows that stuff that you're ignoring to surface, to come
yeah,
up, and you do have to look that
mm,
straight on and address it instead of continually running from it, because I've said it 1,000 times, the more you run from this stuff, the more it's going to chase you. You need to turn around, face it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, whatever you need to do to get through to heal it, and then you can move on
yeah.
and not feel like you're running away from something all the time.
It's exactly it. It's about breaking down, the kind of mountain of challenges that are ahead of you
Mhm.
into smaller, more manageable bits. Even with like my kind of daily schedule and like
Mhm.
I guess the longer term goals that I've got for things like my business as well. I've literally kind of broken those down into, chunks that fit
Mhm.
into my daily schedule.
Mhm.
And it just allows me to have that sense of achievement at the end of every day, basically, even if it's as simple as making sure that I've brushed the dogs, making sure that I've made the bed, and I just have this little to-do list that I tick off every day. Like you say, it's just about kind of showing up and actually doing it, basically, actually dealing with it.
And you'd say that you learned that from Goggins, right? Would you say to really hold yourself accountable and have a schedule and be disciplined? You think you got that from him?
I have, yeah. I mean, it's again, a lot of this stuff is just kind of ideas and sound bites until you put it into action. And this is another thing that myself and my partner are doing at the moment is just making sure that we stay on schedule, and kind of really supporting each other in doing that. But yeah, I mean, the discipline part has been a huge part of it for me, because one of the things that I heard the other day was a confident person, or you doing an impression of a confident person externally, are the same thing. And I think that what I've done is probably apply that to my life as well, right? Like, a
Yes.
happy person on the outside, it is the same thing. So, perhaps I was doing an impression of a happy person, but actually the habits that I've formed in doing that have led to me ultimately being a happy person.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that. That's interesting. How's your family? I think a lot of people have had lovely parents and they had a lovely
Yeah.
childhood and they can't point to anything. And yet
Mm,
you still go down these roads. You know what I mean? It's not, not everybody can say, my dad did this or my mom was like that or whatever. You
mm,
know, was your family surprised that you were struggling? I'm assuming they've been supportive of all your efforts and things that you're
mm.
doing now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was quite obvious to them years back when I was doing drugs all the time, because
Mhm.
my weight loss, you could just obviously see it in my
Mm,
face, and it became obvious about me being involved with kind of not so good people as well. So
right.
at that point, yeah, that I'm kind of surprised they didn't end up staging a full on intervention. To be fair, but yeah, it was that they were
Mhm,
very much, you need to sort this out. Um,
mhm,
and yeah, supported me with love all the way through that.
mhm.
But actually, I think because fast forward 8 years later, when I had a more recent kind of episode, I guess it was that, yeah, they were really surprised because externally, like I said, I'd been kind of doing so well.
Mhm,
In fact,
mhm,
a lot of what people have said to me is oh, I can't believe you broke up with her. You looked so happy on Instagram, and
mhm.
it's just interesting to see what we project externally, and
Yep.
versus what's actually going on inside.
Yeah, that's so much of Facebook, and I could go on about a few
Mm,
people I know. They paint such a, this perfection picture, and then before you
yeah,
know it, they're divorced, and you're like, what? Yeah,
exactly.
I've
Yeah.
seen that many times, and it does make you really step back and go, gee, what's actually real here?
Mm.
So tell us about some of your future plans. You sound like you got some goals set for you. What's coming next for Alex here?
Yeah. Well,
What are you up to?
so what I want to do is really build this business into something where I can kind of host retreats as well.
Mhm. Oh,
Kind of
wow.
fitness retreats, and like I say, center it fully around wellness. I've been recently to a few kind of circles,
Mhm.
which may seem a bit kind of hippie to some people, but literally kind of sitting around a fire with both men and women, sometimes just men,
Yep.
sometimes mixed, and really just, I guess, kind of bearing all to people, really, to complete strangers, and just
Right?
listening to other people. And I kind of want to, with a little flavor of that,
Mhm.
um, just to encourage and promote that it is okay for men to talk, and
Yeah.
to be vulnerable, and to appear weak at times, because we're just human. So
You're just human. Yeah. I
mm.
like it though because it's almost like full immersion. Is it something someone would do for a weekend or a week? Is that what you're picturing?
Yeah, long weekend, maybe a week, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I think that sounds very good because
Mm.
then, we're so busy all the time. And even if you give yourself an hour tonight to do some whatever therapy or reflection is, and then you're right back into the busyness. I think, if you take a whole weekend, a whole week to just shut everything out, that maybe you can get a little more headway
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
steps to healing and on those steps to acknowledging just what the problem is. I think some
Mm.
people just know that they're bothered, depressed, they don't even really know why. So,
Yeah.
a long extended visit into an environment like that, I think will be very valuable to get away from
Mm.
the noise. I recommend all devices shut off for the weekend.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know what I mean? That's a
Definitely.
rule for your
I'll
program.
be confiscating phones at the door, I think.
Put them in the bucket.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Alex, you're lovely. I always like to end with,
Thank you.
the same question I ask everybody,
Mm.
whoever is watching this today and who is in a very dark place and just doesn't want to go on.
Mm.
What do you want to say to them?
Um, so I read something the other day which really hit home actually,
Mhm.
and it's basically to anyone that is struggling. We'd rather hear your story than attend your funeral at the end of the day.
I
So,
love that. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. So reach out. Yeah. Tell your
absolutely,
story.
yeah,
Yeah. And just talk.
hmm
It's just sad to me that just such a simple thing, just to reach out to somebody and say, "I may have a smile on my face, but I am so not okay." The fact that that is so hard, for men. I think somehow there's more of a space for women
mm,
to say that, and somehow it's okay, and the
yeah,
fact that there's a much smaller space, and sometimes men feel like there's no space to do that, that makes me sad. That makes me very sad, and we need to create a bigger space to allow men to simply be human and
yeah.
say, "I'm
It's
not
it's
alright."
it's even saying it to yourself a lot of the time. So,
Mhm,
right, I think that's the most
right.
important first step is actually admitting to yourself that you're not okay,
Mhm,
and then that's
mhm.
that's sometimes the biggest hurdle actually.
Right, right. I was wondering if you had an example, you've helped many, many people. Do you have a
Mm.
favorite story or a favorite, dark someone came to you in a dark place and then they did this and then now here they're doing this amazing thing. I love those stories.
Hmm. Do you know what? I'll be honest. I haven't got a kind of
Mhm.
specific example that I would talk about in terms
Mhm.
of really, kind of rescuing someone.
Sure.
I can't claim to have ever kind of done that. If I'm
Yeah.
completely honest.
Yeah,
But
that's okay.
one of my good friends is he's just a lovely guy. He is so supportive. Definitely of the new business that I've set up, of everything that I ever post socially, and even just actually in person. But he
Mm,
has this like kind of crippling anxiety, um,
okay.
and I mean, he won't be able to leave the house. He won't be able
Mhm.
to talk to people even on the phone because he'll just look at it ringing out and just ignore it. And recently, because of the content that I've been posting around just my own exercise habits, and then equally around this new business, it's kind of spurred him on to get back in the habit of exercising regularly. Um,
Oh.
and then the knock-on effect that that's had is that he's also been able to socialize more, to
Mm,
go out with friends, even to speak
mhm.
to catch up with old friends. And he even said this weekend actually that the going out that he did on the Friday and Saturday actually kind of put him back in a bit of a bad place, but that
Oh,
he can already
interesting.
feel like he can bounce back from it a lot better because of these habits that he's building.
That he's learned.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow,
yeah,
you
which
should
I
feel really
love.
good about that.
It made me really happy hearing that. Yeah, definitely.
But see, this is what it's about. That having someone that they know you've been there
Yeah.
and they can see what's working for you. And so they try it and it's working for them. And then
Mm,
maybe they slip back a little bit, but because of what they've learned from you or the example that you've set,
mm,
they they've learned a new coping mechanism and so they can
exactly.
bounce back. So, you know, Alex, you just keep doing what you're doing. It's exciting, and I am when you get this business up and off the
Mm,
ground, please let us know, because I'm more than
definitely.
happy to do a post just to just
Oh,
to
thank you.
announce it.
Well, in
And
fact, do you know what? I've left out a glaring part of this,
oh,
which is the business is called Black Dog Fitness,
okay.
and it's named after my two black dogs that I've got during lockdown, who,
Oh,
in all honesty, have been probably the biggest part of the healing process as well. Because
yeah.
when I say about getting out in nature, everything like that,
Yes.
um, you know, they've obviously forced me to do that, but you know, as well as that, they've just given me so much more to care about in life, to, you know, to take responsibility for, and to, you know, to really kind of refocus.
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel bad now, actually. I nearly left them out, but
Oh, no, that's no, I'll leave this right in. I
yeah,
swear
good.
some of the most wonderful angels we have are furry and four-legged.
They are.
You
Yeah,
know,
they are.
so
I mean, you know, as a disclaimer, I'd say that if you know, you're listening to this and you're in debt and everything like that, sort that out
Mhm.
first, because you shouldn't be taking on responsibility for something else until
Yes.
you're back on the right track. But
Right.
yeah, they've made such a huge difference.
Yeah. No, they have such a healing quality. I have 2 very, very spoiled dogs myself. They're the sweetest things. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I understand. I do. Yeah, we're leaving that in, don't you worry.
good, good.
Alex, thank you so much. You're so positive and bright, and you're just such a
Mm,
nice example of what it looks like and how how much someone can give back if they just slow down, face what
yeah.
their problem is, do their healing, and then,
Mm,
you know, you're turning around and helping others. You're just exactly the story we want here. So I'm really grateful for you
amazing.
coming to us today.
That's really good to hear. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, you have a good rest of your evening. Thanks for joining us. I
You
know it's a
too.
little late there.
That's all right. It's not a problem.
All right.
Thanks, then.
Thanks so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.